service, honestly speaking.
I don't accept that.
What?
Who wants to be a town president? Who wants to, hey, try being chairman of the GBC, you want a real pain in the ass.
Do it for 20 years.
I was a temple president for 18 years, and now I'm a temple president. I'm not in the GBC, it only gets worse. I don't buy that. I don't buy that if I'm on the spot and I get challenged and I have to defend my activities, I'm out of here. And therefore, don't ask me.
That's not the way, I don't think that's the way it's
That's the vibe
situated.
that comes. That's the vibe that comes. I don't accept that it has to be like that. If they, anyway, I don't wanna do this.
I think there's a legitimate point to discuss. I mean, I think.
I don't accept the teachers that they get, I mean, you're always in between the parents, you gotta satisfy the kids, it's a tough job.
It's a tough job.
Life is tough. Anyone who stands, the problem is as soon as you take a position.
But I think there's a difference, and I think the difference is children are dependent, and as opposed like in a temple,
All I
when
can
you're
say,
dealing
all I
with
can
adults,
say
you're
is,
dealing with children
all I
that are
can say is
dependent.
I come from a family of teachers. I come
I
from
know,
a family of teachers.
Yeah. But my
My
point is
mother
something
was a
else.
school teacher, my sister's a school teacher, my
Yeah.
brother was a school teacher, my brother-in-law's a principal of a school. And they love their job. They deal with school boards, they deal with parents, they deal with zip guns, they deal with rape, they deal with the whole, and they love their job and they love the kids.
I just wanna know
And
what
I don't know, I just,
the policy is.
I'm not trying to say those teachers aren't likable, they're
Yeah.
wonderful people, but I'm just saying that this knee-jerk reaction, that, you're making it too hard for them to be teachers, it's such a sensitized atmosphere.
No, I'm not saying that it's hard, but I'm saying it's definitely a consideration.
But
In the society, how to make the atmosphere of the society so that you have sufficient.
You get a great child, you get
No,
an
no, I'm
ample
saying that
balance
you
of
have-
child
yeah, you have
protection team.
sufficient-
That's your
Yeah,
full
yeah,
time.
yeah, you have sufficient, protection for the children and accountability, and at the same time, encouragement and support. It's a balance, it's not easy, and it's necessary to have. And, I know it's hard in every service, I agree, but we need it also in education.
What about,
And I
how,
think we have,
But I think for years, we have
Yeah.
faulted on the side of the administration.
okay, we shouldn't fault now on the other side, that's what I'm
We
saying.
should
What?
compensate because we've been
Okay,
mistrained and the
what I'm
whole
saying
dynamic is
is, what I'm
the
saying
wrong
is,
way.
it has been compensated.
That's
It's
the-
gone the
that's
other
a
way,
point
and
of
it's
discussion.
great, and I think at a certain time you have to bring it there. I'm concerned that we have proper schools in the society. That's all, that's my only concern.
I'd like
That's
to
my
make,
service
I'd like to make a
profile.
point, and one of the reasons I was talking about this whole concept thing,
Yeah,
because I think it's very important, whatever your concept is, and I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what
okay,
it is,
right,
but we can assume that if you're the principal
yeah,
and you're running your concept,
Yeah.
the school is the representation of your concept, whatever it may happen to be.
right,
Okay, but you have your concept, you're the principal,
Right.
you're the head authority, you're completely independent, and for many, many years, the school is the representation of your concept. And the things that went on while your concept was being represented,
yeah,
and there was much less checks and balances than there are now,
okay,
you had it all then. There wasn't, I've never heard of the Brahminical, check society and the student,
Child protection team and all that.
all this kind of stuff. Well, who was the body? The student,
The Brahminical.
there's the Brahminical.
We understand your
and
point.
who's the other committee?
child protection?
Child Protection
Yeah, yeah.
Committee. We didn't have any of those
right,
things,
right.
right? So back then, you really had the full control of the situation. And it was back then when everybody here is talking about all these different things that took place.
Right.
Now, we have all these different committees and stuff now, but why, if the concept remains the same, I mean, you still have a concept, and it's your concept, and that's what was taking on.
It's not my concept.
Well, of course it's your
No,
concept.
I don't think it's my concept.
Well, you have some kind of concept, or at least you have an
Yeah.
interpretation of
Interpretation
what
of the
Prabhupada
Okay,
wanted
right.
Gurukul to be, and that's your concept. And I might
Okay.
have a different one,
Okay,
and you may have a different one, and Manu may
Right,
have
well,
a different one.
okay,
But you've got yours,
yeah,
and you've actually been in the position, you're the principal, you're bringing that concept
Okay.
into being.
Right.
And what we've seen is that there's some extremely serious problems. That's what I see. That's why the concept is so important. It's your concept, it's your school, and there's been some extremely serious problems at all
Right,
levels,
right,
all levels.
right, it's horrible, the whole thing was mismanaged, so many problems happen, I'm not denying that.
I wanna know what the policy
That-
is.
that-
Can I say one
That's where really the question comes in
Aniruddha,
about whether
Aniruddha.
the concept that you have will ever work.
Aniruddha,
I think it's
agree.
working now,
Aniruddha, let me throw something in.
Yeah.
What's supposed to happen
yeah,
is that the Vrindavan Gurukulis is supposed to, between now and Mayapur, correct me if I'm wrong, Marsh, but this is what we've been saying. Now,
Yeah.
whether they've been hearing it, this is what we've been saying. They are supposed to write down their discipline policies, they're supposed to write down their academic goals, they're supposed to write down their vision, what is a successful school, what is a successful student, how do they interface within the goals of ISKCON. They're supposed to put all that in writing. They're supposed to get it out to the Board of Education before Mayapur, so we have a chance to think about it, digest it, ask for more information. And then that's supposed to be discussed this year in Mayapur with the Board of Education, to make sure that we're all in sync. Where are we going? What is the vision of the school? To make sure it's a shared vision.
Right.
And then to help by getting more teachers, more money, more administrators, and actually build up that vision. Are we in sync? That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do?
Yeah, right.
So your point is, we want to find out what is that vision, and do we agree, and how can it be enhanced, or maybe it's great and we just need to help support it, you know?
Do you understand the point I was making?
Your point is that when you had free reign, look what happened.
Yeah,
Well, I see it as a problem dynamic, a problem concept. If the result is negative and it's not working, then there's a problem with the very fact that it's your concept makes it a problem with you.
okay. My opinion is, at least now, is that you have a school, you may disagree, but if you have a school that's running nicely now.
Or nice.
So
My brother's still there. It's still. I mean, it's doing good.
Yeah, it's a
There's
school
just
that's
certain
running
aspects I
nicely
disagree.
and,
Or at least nicer than it was.
It's
nicer
definitely
it was,
much
but
nicer.
I,
It's
a
good
lot
prashadam.
nicer.
The kids
A
get
lot
their clothes
nicer.
washed. There's hot water. You know. I mean.
Yeah,
You know. It's definitely improved.
it's
you
a
know,
whole
much.
different, it's.
Kids have
it's
socks
a-
in the winter. They
It's
have
a whole
bamboo
different,
hats.
It's a different place.
it's a
Well,
different
you know
place.
what? The,
Sure.
the cold water and the hard beds. That's that
It's
comes with
funny,
the
they're just
territory.
kinda
It's not
Nobody
just
will complain
that,
about it,
it's
you
the
know?
way it's the way the children are dealt with.
Right. That's the main
It-
issue
it-
because
it's
It's
how
a
they,
manifestation
it's how
of
they're cared
respect
for.
for the kids. you
It's
know.
the influence of, for example, mothers in the school that's like allowed, you know, things that just weren't there before. It's a term, you know, concern for the medical care, and you know, and the concern for the prashadam. I mean, for example, I mean, you know, it's I had, you know, it's like again, you know, my nature, you know, is a sannyas, right? So there's a certain, you know, like renunciation or something, you know, or view that makes it a little bit imbalanced just by the nature, I think, almost of my ashram. There were other things that maybe
Which is
added
to your
the
credit
school.
on one hand,
What?
you know, which is to your
To the
credit.
credit, and I think like that, you know, it's like, for example, you know, now, you know, there's, and I'm like one of the main ones that promote it, like now they have an evening meal. You know what I'm saying, they have 3 full meals a day, and for
Right.
years they just had, puffies in the
Yeah.
evening, is when people tried to tell me, and I was saying it was okay, you know, it was wrong.
the most horrible feeling I ever had in
Yeah.
India was being hungry.
Yeah, it was wrong,
It's like
and
always-
it's like, and I wanna say too about that letter, Manu, that, at the time I wrote it, you know, I was going through a whole thing, because what happened is in '86, when the school like exploded, and it exploded at a point where, you know, I was at least saying everything was going great, because everyone was wanting to send their kids. I mean, even talk about Dharmaraj, you know, the reaction of Kirtananda, when Dharmaraj and Chaitanya Mangala came to the school, I mean, I picked them at the airport, they were in black,
Black,
You know, and they-
sunglasses.
and they were like this, you know, I mean, they were really heavy.
For coming from Mayapur, from Vrindavan.
New
From
Vrindavan.
To go to the school?
Yeah, I mean, it was like James Dean and Marlon Brando, and then what happened was they actually became, you know, like a little, you know, little sense control, gentlemen. Everyone was impressed. The whole New Vrindavan came there, you know. And then, you know, I thought, you know, at that time, you know, kids were just pouring in because people were seeing, at least that the kids seemed to get some training and discipline, and
So how did it explode?
it exploded, as far as I can see, because, you know, because of like what Borijan said to me now, he said, if you're not doing something about child protection, understand this going on. You know, that's the way Kali Yuga is.
Right, right.
If you're not watching for it and into it, so it actually,
And it's going to happen
especially
regularly.
it went rampant in the school, and then the whole thing blew up in my face, and I spent 2 months, just parent after parent, coming in my office, you know, with kids who were abused. The school just the school and my ego just exploded. I had to face every parent. And then, you know, there was there's jokes in the school. For the next 3 years, they were saying there's more toilets than there are kids. You know, there was like no kids there. It was like a financial struggle, and I had left the position of principal. So then, you know, in my mind, you know, like, okay, that's it. I kind of like, I accepted responsibility, you know. I gave up the service, you know, I did what I should. And then when I was called back to do it, you know,
By Gopal Krishnadas, Toshan.
well, Toshan, Borijan, you know, and I was asked over several months to do it. And I could see, I mean, you know, and, you know, I took it over in a new spirit, tried to learn from my mistakes, and I think that, you know, the school after that, you know, developed and I matured, and whatever it is. It was hard for me, you know, I was kind of, it was like double jeopardy, you know. Now I'm in the position again, you know what I'm saying? I just can't, I can't take the old role, you know, okay, you failed, you're that, you know, I had to have some kind of spirit to like insist on my, you know, understandings as a leader. And that's when, you know, that letter of apology came, which maybe wasn't as full as it should be, because I kind of had that, you know, thing about, and also bitterness on my part too, you know, bitterness that, you know, I got no help for years, you know, even
Damned
stuff.
if you do, damned if you don't.
No, no help. And even like you think of, you say Raghunath, you know, like if he left, I didn't have anybody to replace him. You know, I mean, I should have just, you know, I should have depended on Krishna. But I had no help, no resources, no way to get teachers, almost feeling like in ISKCON, you know, they don't deserve a school because they don't want to support it. And now here I am, you know, kind of doing the service, you know, and, you know, taking the responsibility for it. I'm kind of feeling like, well, I'm doing it. You know, why bring it in my case now? I'm the one that's helping, you know. And you know, you met me in Mayapur. You saw how, you know, frazzled, defensive, you know.
I wasn't.
No,
I couldn't
how
remember
I
my
was.
mental state. I don't remember. I was.
No, how I was.
What I remember is just meeting Marge recently in
Yeah.
Boston. Now I can say on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
That you were just, there's some lady, this Mercedes Smith or something or
Yeah.
whatever. Maharaj has met her. She's given Maharaj, I don't know, it was 10,000, 19,000.
$40,000.
40,000. Maharaj just put it into the school. So I mean, you know, it's like there's a combination.
I'd like to say something. Basically, I mean, I have to say, after all we've said, that I do think the school is a good school now. I mean, there's certain things I disagree with because I'm worried that it doesn't happen to, you know, my brother or the kids that,
Yeah.
you know, they don't go through with it again. And I mean, it's easy to blame it all on Marge, and there are things that definitely that, you know, okay, has to be faced up to. But then, a lot of the problem is that in ISKCON today, education is not even an interest. Most people don't give a damn about what happened to the kids. Every single school is falling apart. You know, the Vrindavan's the only one that is somewhat together. It still has its problems, but nowadays, like, you ask, you know, most people, they don't really care about the schools. And, you know, so, okay, if everyone, you know, Marge has a point, you know, if everyone's, you know, if he is doing it, you know, you got to take credit. And then I don't say it's, you know, a good school and it can't be better. It definitely can't be better. But I think that also, I mean, in ISKCON, there should be more focus, you know. You know, I think Gurukul is more important than the Centennial right now. You know, and I
See,
think
I'm kind of like in
you
that
know,
mood
people
too.
should have that.
I mean,
You're what, Maharaj?
what?
You're what?
I'm in that mood too. I mean, Gurukula, you know, is really my life and soul for Prabhupada. In other words, I dedicated myself to it, and you know, I kind of have similar views. I don't want to turn it. I don't want to turn the heat off of me and jump on his party and, you know, point it to the GBC or something like that, because.
I'll just transfer to all
Yeah,
the
and
heartless
even like
sannyasis
this
who don't
year,
have
you know,
kids and
this
don't
year,
care.
I mean-
I can dodge that bullet, no problem, all right?
What?
I said, yeah, I know I can dodge the bullet. It's all those
Yeah.
sannyasis on the GBC.
Look at our kids.
Yeah, we can do that. But, you know, I've been traveling and, you know, preaching this year. I mean, it's, in one sense, it's, you know, taking yourself out of that pressure for a while is, I mean, you
Refreshing.
haven't done it yet, but, it's, you know, all you do, you know, it's like, it's kind of like, you know, living in Vrindavan even too, you know, with low-class Indians and things, there's a lot of hate vibes, you know, that you have to, you know, there's a lot of, you know, our president got shot, I mean, a lot's directed to me too, I'm also a leader. There's a lot of pressure, and, anyway, I can't
So-
say, I really can't really decide really right now what to,
So where are we at here?
Can he
Well-
interject here?
I'd like to make a statement.
Yeah.
Just,
My short time in Vrindavan made the Marine Corps like really easy. And I do have a question for you. Do you have any?
Do you mean that, is that a positive, or is that a sardonic comment, or what is the purport of that?
Every Marine had, sat there and said, "Oh, boot camp was awful," and I was sitting there going, "That was a breeze compared to what I've been."
You got to sleep in.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, I got to sleep in, and I got good food, and I got treated better." But do you have any formal training? That's something you should also consider before you reappoint him. Do you have any formal training in education? You have many years there.
Prabhupada said like this, and this is what I believe. Prabhupada said that good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. And I think the fact that I stayed there for 20 years, and I think, too, I think Raghunath also knows that, it's my fault. I kept the thing going. But there was some ability to keep that thing going without any help, and, whoever they put with you. I kept the thing going, and it was horrible that I did. It should have collapsed. But I think it's like that, and I don't even want to defend myself, but I think the people that are there now in the school, and, when I took the school over again, they were like, it was financially destitute, there were no students, and I think if you or anybody else, I think all the parents are, majority of parents, overwhelming, are really supportive of the school. They like how their students, the kids are being trained. I think the kids themselves are happy in the school, and I think they're educated. When they get out there, they're educated. There's a few problems, like he said, is that we learned our own limitations. And one of the limitations is we can't be big-hearted to save all ISKCON. We don't have any facilities to do that. So what we're doing right now is we can give Gurukul education, and after the age of 12 or 13, we can only take those boys who are suited for the Brahmachari ashram. And what can I say is
another thing that the Bobby should also consider reappointing him is it hasn't, I don't know if it has come up yet or not, but it's civil liability. You talked about writing an actual written policy for the school. Up until how many years we run a school without a written policy? I'm surprised some of these parents haven't
there is a
tried to
charter.
sue.
There is a charter.
Is there an actual written policy that guides what the teacher should do on discipline, and everything that
There's a
goes on the school?
complete, elaborate discipline policy.
And it's written.
Written
It's been there.
elaborately.
And how long has it
And
been
it's
in
been there.
place?
What?
How long has it been there?
It's been there about 5 years.
And can the parents take a look at this thing?
They can.
Can I look at it?
Yeah, you can.
Is it public knowledge?
Yeah.
If you're gonna rewrite it, I would also suggest that you make it available for some of the Gurukulis to look at it and give a written response on suggestions on how to work this out. But I don't know if it's kind of the temple or the school has been taken to court over some of these issues yet, but I can see very easily that it can.
It's true.
I mean, even 20 years after the fact, I mean, if anyone here has been abused, sexually or otherwise, they can go ahead and take this on the court. I mean, 20 years later, 25 years later, there's.
Is that true? I thought it was only two
It
years after
Depends on the
remembrance.
state. The
There's
whole
state
thing's,
law.
it all happened in India, that's the other thing.
Right, it just,
There's
it's
a
a big
little
mess.
defense, there's
It'd be a big legal mess.
There's a little legal defense against it.
Yeah.
I would just like to ask, what is the policy for keeping a teacher? I mean, I can understand that, okay, we are short-staffed, and this teacher has some problems, he's not the best, but we gotta keep him. But like, what makes him, I mean, if he's physical abuse, or every 3 months do you keep him, a little while, or if
I
he's
think that
sexually
right now in the
abusive?
school that.
Well, let me just finish. I was just wondering, what the policy is, what makes a teacher dispensable or indispensable, because it does play a part. I mean, from my own personal point, sometimes I wonder if it's not better just to have no cows.
Well, I would say like right now, in terms. All right, Bo.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Actually,
you.
one more thing, a very simple thing
Yeah.
to say, that actually this mood of courtesy and friendliness, and then when it comes down to business, just being straightforward.
Yeah.
This is how the Kshatriyas is, deal with things. So
Yeah,
when there's an issue, deal with it full on with full strength. But when there's not, we can be Vaishnavas,
Yeah, I don't hold anything.
So- So this is,
I don't, how would I put it, is, I don't have any feelings or anything. I think you spoke the way you feel.
Yeah,
I would personally like to discuss it with you further.
yeah.
Not just in a thing where,
Yeah.
Sure.
but like that, but I have no.
When you have some time, you know where I'm standing. Just
Yeah.
not in March.
Okay,
See
I
what
have
your
no
office-
qualms,
This money also stays there, so.
yeah. Yeah, I have no qualms, I don't feel anything.
Okay.
And I also feel too, is I deserve a lot of flack. I mean, there's no doubt about it, I can't get around it.
Mark,
Yeah.
How do you?
not to
Yeah.
not to get
There was
into
no high
it,
note tonight?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
See, you get-
No high note?
Yeah.
but Jago does bring up a
Yeah.
good point.
Wow.
If you end up going back,
Yeah,
not to say that you're not qualified, or not
Yeah.
to say that
Yeah.
that you don't have the experience,
yeah,
but would it hurt to just there are guidelines, there are books, there's training
Yeah.
courses
yeah.
that I'm not saying make it better, but I'm sure it could help.
I'm gonna tell you, all our teachers are trained.
No, I mean I'm not
Yeah.
speaking about teachers. I'm saying
Yeah.
for you in terms of perhaps being in the supervisory position that
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Officials.
I'm sure there are a million little tricks of the trade or hints
Yeah.
or things that maybe just could give you a broader perspective on what's going on there.
Yeah.
Whether the things that went on, like I said, if I was in your position, a lot of the things I would want to say, well, I wasn't really sure that was going on, or, so maybe some things you did know, maybe some things you didn't. With that in mind,
Okay,
if you do go back,
yeah,
don't let it ever happen again. Because this is the first time around.
right.
The second time around, if it ever happened again,
It's the same
I mean,
person, they would
there
totally
could be no
discredit
need- there could
Gurukul.
Excuse me, what did you say?
With you still in charge, then it would really discredit the Gurukul system.
right, the second time around, if it happened under you,
Because it is the only Gurukul. I mean,
Vrindavan has looked at us like the leader Gurukul, it's always like you go to your local Gurukul,
Yeah.
and when you're good enough, then you go to Vrindavan.
Okay.
So with that in mind, if you do go back and you have the opportunity, you've seen firsthand, and there's a bunch of kids. But you brought up the point that you've seen dealings that the resentment doesn't seem to come out, or was that what
That was my
That was Rob who was saying that.
right? The resentment doesn't come out in dealings like you and Ananta Vrindavan,
Yeah,
and the resentment is there. I think you know Anila, doesn't he live in San Diego now?
Who?
Anila?
yeah.
Anil, the Anil, the adult?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what about Anil?
If I saw him in the dark alley, he's one of the people. He wouldn't want to meet me in the dark alley. But when I've seen him in the temple,
Right.
hello, oh, Harbo. Yeah, Harbo. So the fact that we don't necessarily jump out and say, oh, I'm going to cut your throat out or something.
Is the symptom of us being gentlemen?
Exactly, we're not going to go there, Just, you're wearing a
Because you're a good Gurukula training.
Okay, so we get some. But really, if you go back, just keep in mind that there's a lot of people that really, I'm not gonna say we have our lives messed up, but there's a lot of things inside of us we're never gonna forget. And to just think that maybe you could have helped, maybe not.
I could have helped.
To not happen, to
Yeah.
some of these things not happen. If I was in your position, I think that would be enough motivation to say, this is not happening, period. And I'm not saying that it's, you can like stop it everywhere by yourself, but you have a child protection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, there's one comment I'd like to make. I don't think I'll make another one besides this.
What's your name?
My name is Mayapur Chandra.
Salanada went to India.
I've been, I've never been to India,
Yeah.
but I've been to several
You
Gurukuls.
Shifty's son?
Yes, I am.
Who's
I knew you when you were...
Please don't do that. The only thing I think that should really be done is obviously these people didn't have any intention of looking outside for help. I had quite a few of my own experiences that I don't care to ever go into. And the matter of fact about that is obviously the people that were involved from the bottom up were not asking for help from anywhere, including Krishna. Nobody was trying to say, give me the intelligence to do the right thing. That's a very simple thing. If someone's open and they say, give me the right intelligence to do what's right, then, it's provided. And nobody did that. And that's a matter of arrogance, ego, and a lot of other things that should not be there. These are,
it was a childlike situation. We're all growing up, and that's the case. If someone says every day, you know, please give me the intelligence to do what's right, it'll happen properly. That's the way things are provided. You know, I've had a few mess-ups myself, and as soon as I would ask for any help from Krishna, always happens right away, and that's how Krishna is with everything. But if someone has an ego and they think, oh, I'm going to take care of things, you know, no, it won't happen. That's what we all do. We all get this big ego, and that's when things go wrong. And nobody ever just thinks, hey, you know, maybe I gotta like look to Krishna for just a second. Nobody ever thinks that, oh, maybe I should have done this differently. Oh, maybe I should have done that differently. No, you got to be given the proper intelligence. Period. Otherwise, we're never going to do it properly. And that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted that, what you said, I mean, that was what the hesitancy I had for taking over the service again. It's like, it's, you know, me doing it,
I understand that.
complete hot seat. Even now when I think, you know, when you get away from a situation, you know, to have to put myself in kind of like that tension again.
Yeah.
You know, that I've been just like around preaching, and I was just in Gitanagari for a month. I heard about that program. What? You ever heard about that one?
No, but I know that,
Yeah.
well,
And the preaching is nice, and but I'm just saying, it's not that.
no, I know the feeling. I've been trying to resign from the GBC.
Yeah, and it's
we-
like
we
it's-
know
it's-
the emotion. We
It's
know the emotion.
intense.
But,
It's an intense thing, and I had to live that with the last 8 years where I took over the school, and that was like the dichotomy to know that this is the person that ruined everything. You have no right to open your mouth, and at the same time being a leader that has to exert himself, and you know, it's a tough.
and you may get shot in the back.
I'm different now. I
But
have to
look
say,
at
I'm
it
different.
on the other side, because
Yeah.
you can also be the person who made the difference. In my case, Murali Varke, when I was in Lake Huntington, there's a teacher there that beat me more than I can ever account.
Murali Bhatt.
No, there was a teacher there.
Oh,
And, you know, despite that, when I think of Lake Huntington, I think of Murali Varka, I think of how he dealt with us.
yeah.
And I think of him, and he's still like the bright spot in my years in Gurukul. I always think of Murali as like, wow, you know? So maybe you should think that maybe you could also be that kind of person for the kids. So
Actually
so
speaking, I realize that I'm not up to that standard. I have a different service, but I'm just saying,
No, but
I can really appreciate
Well,
people
different
like
people are
motivated.
inspired by different things. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
people in your life who also that you helped and were
Yeah.
inspired
Right.
by you.
I'm just saying, because I was so institutionally oriented, you know what I'm saying? Like the institutionally, because I was so institutionally oriented in the framework of the Gurukula, you know, like you said, a lot of the kids didn't even know me practically. You know what I'm saying? I
A lot of
didn't
times
have
the temple
that.
president doesn't even have time, like when Guru
Yeah.
Raimarsh was in San Diego, it was a great
Yeah.
arrangement because I kept everything running
Yeah,
and he had time, you know, to counsel and be the kind father,
I
the
talked to
big
you
brother.
too. I liked it.
All right.
Yeah,
I understand where you feel the pressure.
yeah.
That, you know, you don't want to go back to that, but if you do, you can also make a difference.
No, I'm willing to like. It's like you say, 10 years, you know, okay, so, you know, you're not experienced, but I think, you know, maybe leaving it for a while helped to orient me or something in a different way, because I think the way I was dealing since the school recently, you know, a lot of the things that I did wrong were kind of corrected. You know, there's sometimes you can do a lot of things good, but there's certain kinks or difficulties or something that kind of hinder your potential or something. I don't want to say that, you know, I'm gonna. It's just there's so few people to do the service. I mean, that's just the way. It's just even Braj Bihar is a nice devotee and he's helped out a lot, but to be the leader of the school, it's.
He'd get chewed in
He's-
5 minutes,
He's
he'd be a nervous
He's
wreck.
pulling his hair out.
Yeah,
I know that.
He's not.
And it's hard because, you know, you want to keep a high standard of discipline. You know what I'm saying? So the students can really be trained to a very fine level, and at the same time, you know, make sure that the open communication, the relationships are there. It's tough. And
As far as this not enough trained people,
yeah,
just to address that issue,
Yeah.
if there's not the people, then just shut the place down,
All
as
right,
far
it's
as
not
I'm
the case.
concerned.
It's not the case.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
if it's not
we
the
trained
case,
it,
then
but
there are
it's-
enough, then there are
I'm
enough.
just saying, that we managed to get people in the school, sometimes it becomes a little pressure.
Yeah,
If you have a few little people take more responsibility,
right,
but our mood now is conservative.
right,
Our mood now is, don't take more students than you
Right.
can take, be real vigilant, which are the teachers that are accepted into the school for teaching.
right.
There is a real principled approach, but no matter what you do, what I'm saying, it's still, you get to 20 teachers, one leaves, two leaves. That's what I was saying, the hospital analogy is if you have a hospital, right?
Right.
If you have a temple, you can have a temple president, right, who's a real dynamic leader, and, some mediocre people, and you got a temple. You got a Gurukul, it's like a hospital. You got to have a doctor in every position. So you have 8 doctors and 2 are missing. You're going to be hanged. That's what I'm saying. A Gurukul, you have to. Every person has to be at you got to have people that are qualified to be leaders in the society in every position. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's a little bit more difficult in that regard. I see temples, you can run a temple, you get a good guy who's a little bit of a businessman, or you get a little bit, Kshatriya spirit, or even maybe like a Brahmin who's a good leader, things can go on. But in a school, it's like every position, top person, and it's tough.
I want to address.
And then what happens when you lose them?
Right, I want to make a point about something you were bringing up earlier, and you're talking about this experience thing.
Yeah.
And that you've been in the experience for a long
Yeah.
time, and Prabhupada said you get
Yeah.
good judgment comes from
Yeah.
experience, and
Yeah.
experience comes from bad judgment, and this kind of thing. I'm not so sure I agree with you. I think people have certain tendencies. They have a certain tendency to do certain types of activities.
Right.
And what they learn is that whether they can get away with it or not. And where the judgment comes in is they learn that they can't get away with something because everybody gets on them about it. And they get punished, they go to jail, they do this and that, they're killed or whatever. And that's where the judgment comes in. They learn they can't get away.
If you have to have a basic propensity for the service.
Well, no, I'm just
it's
talking
better-
about if
people
people
should be
have
trained.
tendencies. If
People should also be trained.
Right.
I'm not saying.
I'm just talking about tendencies.
Yeah.
People have certain tendencies. For example, a child molester may have a certain tendency
Yeah.
to be a child molester.
Yeah.
And judgment doesn't come into it anywhere. He's not going to learn better judgment. What he might learn is that he can't get away with it. Now, what my concern is that all this different stuff happened,
Yeah.
and that it happened because of propensities and tendencies and whatever
Yeah.
of the people involved
Right.
in the administration there. Now, if the result of all of this is that what you learn is that it's okay and you can go back,
I will.
that's what my concern is.
What?
My concern is that if despite all these things that happen,
Yeah.
you can still go back there, and it can continue to go, there isn't any punishment, there is no, price to pay for anything that happened. Then the message is, it's okay.
Let me ask you a question. The message for who? The message from the
Oh, the
garage,
message
for
for the-
populace in general, for the staff at the school?
The point that he was making is you learn from experience.
No, I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm just
I'm talking
asking.
about tendencies.
No,
that
I
people
understand,
have.
I understand your example.
Yeah.
I'm just,
It's a valid point.
yeah, I'm just
I can
saying,
appreciate it.
so, because people will say that. People say that, well, even he's changed, just like frankly, we've got a temple president who embezzled a bunch of money. Now the thing is, that nobody wants to get in a fight with him, he doesn't have the money anyway. Now another argument is, you gotta go to the authorities and nail the guy to the wall, so people know that you just can't do this.
Right.
If you do, then you can't just cheat us and walk out the door.
Right.
So this is an extreme example. So are you
Yeah.
saying that even
Well,
the
okay.
Maharaj may have, I mean, I
Well,
understand,
well,
I understand
well,
your example.
Well, I'll tell you
So
what,
How does it apply?
It applies exactly to Vrindavan, because all these things went on and on and on there, and in fact, all the Gurukuls,
Well, who are you
they
trying
went
to send the
on.
message to? I don't understand, I understand the example, I understand its application.
Okay, well, I'm applying it to Gurukul, precisely. All these different things went on in Gurukul, until a whole bunch of people came up and made a great big deal about it, and then the people in charge were saying, hang on, this can't go on, where the people that were in position couldn't get away with it anymore. So in fact, exactly that happened.
Okay.
Now, as far as what's happening here, you're sort of here because it can't be allowed to continue, whatever has happened. My concern is that from what happens here, If you go back to your position, it will be clear that it can go on.
What can go on?
Whatever, because there's been no price to pay. Whatever problems anyone had, physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, all these different things that went on
Yeah.
during the Gurukul, basically no price has been paid and you're going
Well, the
back.
price was paid.
The message
I
is.
already resigned.
Right,
I mean, there was something that happened. I mean,
right.
That's what I'm saying, but, you see, also, I think it would be a very easy problem, I don't do the service anymore, you know, do something else, but I think we have a real problem in our society that we don't have people coming forth who are trained and experienced to do the service. Even in my trip in America, just from my knowledge of Gurukula, you know, I've seen at least in 3 places, just because I have experience, and I can see the problems that are going on. I mean, I mean, 3 places I saw that, you know, just people don't know what they're doing. And even, I tell you, even recently, one parent came to me from Denver, you know, about the teacher and not being trained, being too macho, and what he said to his kid.
Oh, it's a whole story.
And then I was just thinking, like, my God, you know, that after all these years,
Let me ask you this,
yeah.
in relation to your thing. My question would be this, that Dhanurdhara Marsh has been badly burned by this situation. He doesn't want to repeat. He wants to do the right thing. He doesn't want to repeat. He realizes, you know, he's looking at these people who've had, you know,
All sorts of bad experiences.
you know, such a bad, scarred for life, and
Right,
he's,
yeah.
you know, he obviously doesn't want to repeat the same thing. He's been embarrassed. He's been, you know, it's been a mess. But he, you know, whatever.
Right.
All at the same time, there's been positive things.
Right.
So that is chastening. That's like the electric circuit. You know, the shock goes off. The question is whether he gets it, and whether they actually will see the problem. It's not that they may have the desire to not repeat the pattern, but do they actually see it when it comes up again? You follow what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm explaining clearly enough. I'm just saying that's my only fear. I have no doubt that the people in the Gurukula want to deliver a quality product and are giving, you know, want to see the children happy. I have no doubt about it.
I would say too, there's new people there. It's not the
Yeah.
same old people. There's a new people there, and
Sure.
that's one thing too, and I think they.
But it's a question of whether they're going to repeat the
They
same
pick
pattern
me. I mean,
unknowingly
they're
or
the ones
unwillingly.
that are, you know, super heavy, you know, real, you know, conservative, you know, strong.
The
It's not
teachers?
just-
That's why the
The-
gory thing is so scary, Mark.
There-
That's
there's-
why the gory thing blows a whistle. I keep
That
telling
you
you that.
didn't
That's
know
why the
about.
gory thing just
What?
blows a whistle
The
for.
fact that you didn't know about it,
About what?
about the gory thing, and that he was beating
That it
kids
was going
before.
on for so long and nobody did anything.
And that you say you
and
didn't
it
know
got
about
heavy
anything.
that the child protection team was practically speaking,
Yeah.
the child protections team's response was, they went in, you don't want to hear this. You don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it again.
Okay, say
And
it.
you're going to say, well, you're wrong, and because you didn't understand this, and this actually
Yeah.
happened, you missed it. But, and therefore I say it's the same dynamic, and that's what scares me. The fact of the matter is, the child protection team kicked into a defensive mode. Protect the teachers, protect the school. The kids were put in the back seat and second bested, and the corporal abuse continued until somehow or other the system at the Gurukula was circumvented and the higher bell went off and they got pressure.
What I'm saying
That's
is, I.
what happened.
And I think you're going against what the GBC investigated and concluded.
Let me budget.
I was on it.
What?
I was
Well,
on
I'm
it.
saying what you said right now, and that's why it's again, it's right, I think it went against what they actually concluded. Their perception of the thing wasn't exactly
Have
what
you
you
read
got.
Murley's final letter to the school?
Yeah, I have. It wasn't sent
That
to me.
Gory was beating the kids with a stick
I-
over a period of time and the child protection
But
team
what-
did
but
not
what-
catch it. I'm not trying to,
Yeah, I'm
whatever,
sure,
you
yeah.
know? I'm just saying that's, whatever.
Anyway, this,
Because that's what scares me.
I
Everything else is
appreciate
wonderful.
it scares you, I appreciate it worries it, I just.
I mean, if you, here, I was just reading the paper today.
What paper?
I was reading the LA Times. And there was this incident, you know, where this girl in Okinawa got raped
Yeah,
by some US sailors.
yeah,
And one very high position admiral in the Navy or whatever,
yeah.
he made this comment, he said, He said, for the same amount of money they used to rent the car, which they took to go and rape this girl, they could have rented a prostitute. And there was this enormous furor of the guy had to resign.
Okay.
It's in the paper today. He resigned just over this one comment.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
Okay.
It's-
My point is, okay,
Yeah.
Dhanurdhara says that the school blew up, it blew up in his face in 1986, he resigned, he left for 2 years, he saw the school was
Yeah.
going down a drain, he came back. Now, I don't know if you're saying this, but it appears that due to your participation, it is now where it is today.
It's hard for me to say due to mine, people perceive that. I
I
would
would say that's legitimate, he's gotten good people in there, the school has vastly improved. It's a night and day, it's a completely different school, and the man has
Would
done
it be-
a fantastic job. I can say that from my heart.
say.
I think that there's a fatal flaw, and you're gonna get nailed again in another 3 or 4 years. You're gonna be, I'm speaking as a friend.
Right.
I
And
don't-
you
I
can
think-
imagine how heavy it is for me to put myself in that seat.
and I'm speaking as a friend, I'm telling you, I'm afraid you're gonna get blindsided again,
Yeah.
and it's gonna blow up in our face.
Well, okay,
There's
the question, hold on.
Because there's an
I haven't
insular,
said anything in an
defensive,
hour.
knee-jerk
I didn't say
reaction,
anything yet.
and I'm worried about
There's
it.
like 4
That's
things
all I'm
that
The
I
only
want to
thing
see
about
addressed.
this thing is I think is the nature
There's
of
4
actually
things that I
what
want to see
happened
addressed, and nobody's touched on it.
wasn't
And to
perceived
me, that's the crux
as
of
so
it.
serious.
But
That's the
over
whole
a
thing.
period of time, the stated written policy of the school is you
Yeah.
cannot hit a kid with a stick. You have a teacher who has an anger problem. Gory, Kurmarupa says he saw him often whack a kid. He knows he's not supposed to hit people with a stick. He's hitting, over a period of time, he's hitting kids with a stick.
You say it's.
I mean, it's
what
not,
they investigated
you
is-
can
is-
chart, it's like
they say-
math.
Well, no, Gordry,
He lost you've got your disciplinarian is whacking kids. I mean, what's wrong in this picture? You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that one out.
but I don't think they agree with your analysis. What happened?
I don't give a damn whether they agree. Kurmarupa saw it. My problem is that they don't agree with it.
Do you know what
That's my
I think
problem.
if
This
you
is-
investigate, I don't think.
See, this is
Murray
what happens,
agrees?
Budget.
What? I don't think
Budget,
so.
right here is the problem.
Maharaj, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
That's why I asked him.
Yeah.
I'm not out to get gory. I'm not
I know
out
you're not out to get
Maharaj,
gory, but
my
yeah.
question is,
Yeah.
over a period of time, that's why I asked, was
Yeah.
it just, were all 3 boys, was it the same thing? And he only used the stick once on 3 different boys, but the
No.
catalyst was one incident? No.
No.
It was over a period of time. Murray says, he says for 5 years he's been using a stick.
Budget, can I jump in?
No, for 5 years he's been using a stick.
What I think they
Now, my
investigate
question
is
is, if you have if your stated policy is you
Yeah.
cannot use a stick, if your disciplinarian, who's supposed to execute that process,
Yeah.
is using a stick for a number of years,
Yeah.
and the child protection team doesn't do anything,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is something is wrong in
Okay,
this picture.
what I would say like this
That's
is,
all I'm
what I
saying.
said like this is that I'm not there right now. I prefer that Murley, who's neutral on this, what I'm saying neutral, I mean,
Let me ask you this.
yeah,
What misstatement have I made in this? Over a period of time, the man was using a stick. Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
has he used a stick, say?
Over a period of time, was he using a stick for corporal punishment? It's a yes or no
I
question.
don't think it's a yes or no
Oh
question.
my God.
Budget, this.
No, no.
No, let me say why I don't think it's a yes or no question. That makes it seem like it was part of the policy to use the
No,
stick.
I'm not saying that.
If you ask me, has he used
I'm not
it?
adding don't add all the
Okay,
baggage on the
has he
question.
used it a number of times?
It's a yes or no.
Yeah, I think that
Okay,
they,
It's a stated policy of the school that you are not supposed to use a stick.
yes.
Did the child protection team stop it? The first time, the second time, how many years did it go on until the child protection team stopped it? In fact, my understanding, we can stop right there.
Okay,
He was doing it,
yeah,
the stated policy is not to do it, he was doing it for a number of years, and so I'm saying the child protection team was not trained and working properly, and it scares me. That's all I'm saying. Now, I can take it a step further.
okay.
That we're not, so we're not in any disagreement. So
Yeah,
you're saying, Merle, I don't understand, a neutral
Okay.
person. What's that got to do with anything? We're both in agreement. We've come to the exact same conclusion. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Again, I would say like this, it's a very, because of the I keep on coming to that. Because of the past, it's a very hard thing for me to come and actually discuss this with you.
It was all right that he used the stick?
I would just say that it's not that the question, I'd say that the child protection, it was,
And this is the blind side that's gonna nail you again, and screw the school up and throw education back, and you're a good, sincere, dedicated, far more advanced person than me.
No,
And that's a
I'm
You
not.
fact.
guys have been
That's a
going at a
fact.
circle
No.
on this.
Well,
No, hey,
Almost
we're
in-
adults, we're having a conversation.
Okay, but
And he's
this
gonna
is-
get nailed.
but
I've finished, I've come,
Yeah.
I've been working on this for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm an adult, I got a right to speak what I don't
Right.
need you to
I've been
interpret my
working
thoughts.
on this for 20
And
years.
I'm almost done.
Yeah,
That's all I'm trying to say to you.
yeah,
That you're a good man. It's a
Yeah.
good school. You've come a long way, and I think there's a flaw in this system, and you're gonna get nailed. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I'm finished. It's yours.
What I see here, and I just want to thank you for getting as revved up as you are over this issue.
yeah,
And to you, it's not about management. It's not whether or not this system worked or didn't work.
yeah.
To Dhanurdhara it is. And I feel that what the element, the critical element that's missing here, I mean, that was the reason why I've been, sort of asking
Yeah.
your permission, Badri and Ryan, to cut in, because I don't, that kind of impatience, for whatever the reason is that happened, is what I've been dreaming for. The biggest problem I have with you, is I don't think you ever fully recognize the seriousness, the gravity of what these quote-unquote mistakes are. And that comes through, for example, when you give your example. I think it comes through in everything. And when it comes, your examples of the hospital. In other words, you see yourself as a heroic individual that's there to.
I just, no, I don't see that.
Well, you're there. You saved the
Okay.
Gurukul. That was a general thing that, for whatever reasons, there wasn't the experience, there wasn't the resources, and you managed to pull the resources out to make whatever inexperience was there work to some degree.
I
and
want to
Badri
know,
was
is it
supporting.
safe to say that the parents who put their kids in after that knew all the things that went on? Is it safe to say that most parents still don't know what happened in the past and they only know rumors and nothing is confirmed, and many of them don't know because they're new devotees, they send their kids there from Russia, who knows where.
Yeah.
They don't know your past, they don't know, that you've been involved with, all this problems, they don't
Yeah.
know the history.
Yeah.
And so they're, it's not entirely fair to say that, everybody knew, and despite the fact you came back in and you saved the situation. No, most people don't know. People come to me all the time and they say, what's happened? Is Dhanurdhara Maharaj really responsible for this? Was he there? Did he see it? And they genuinely have concern, because if
Right.
they knew that, they probably wouldn't put their kid in the school. So therefore, that is my biggest problem with you continuing to be the principal, regardless of whether there is the qualified staff or not to do it. Because if they really knew what happened between 1976 and 86, would they still have the same faith that you would be the right person to be in that post?
And I'm bringing up the reason why. If I saw you getting as upset as Badri, now I wouldn't. Badri knows that we've always
Yeah.
had sort of an intense relationship. It's our rasa.
Who, you and me?
and Badri.
Yeah.
It's like we don't get through a
Most of
single
our relationships
sentence.
are intense, Peru.
We don't get through a
Apologize for
single
that.
sentence without it being something. But if somebody said, "Would you trust Badri if he was interested to be principal of Vrindavan Gurukul?" I would give both hands up. I would give 2 thumbs up. I would give a 10 fingers ring on that. And why? He has a lot of accomplishments, some of which
Yeah. Right.
I might have. some
I got my
problems
fair
with.
share of failures before we got a few minutes.
Yes, and I would, and I would be
We
happy
can
to
spend some
share
time on
those
that
with you. But it's primary, like Ani was saying, tendencies. The fact that he was pacing the room, he was turning red, that he was so upset at this, for whatever the reason was, and he was simply looking for the logic and reason in the system to show you, well,
Yeah.
it's not, you don't have that. And that, to me, represents the single greatest element and problem that you're dealing with. You don't have that culture. In fact, you have a personality that perpetuates a culture that I feel actually facilitates, protects, if not promotes, the very problems that we're trying to protect against. That's the problem that I have. And all these other things are simply symptoms of that. Very much like you were saying with the tendencies. When somebody has a certain tendency, they'll simply have a certain patience and understanding for it that it will allow to facilitate. if you had the same mood that Bundry had,
Well, I actually
Even to
feel
you-
that,
Let me ask you
I
this.
feel that there are people in the school that do, and that I have enough sense to, let that strong, indignant, side, conservatism prevail in the school.
I would offer another thing. There may be some emotional display here for
Yeah.
a few minutes.
and I was
But
happy,
wait,
I was
but-
gratified to see that, and I wanna thank
what-
you for that.
Well, stay around because more than that came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, but for that
But
particular
what I was gonna
abuse.
say, on the other hand, how do you figure a man who spent over 20 plus years trying to get it right and trying to do it? Now that doesn't come, in my experience, that anyone who's been in this society and been a leader and stayed at it, it comes out of deep love for Srila Prabhupada and a deep concern for the conditioned souls and a deep concern for the people he works with. Otherwise, you just can't do it. So, I have my nature, he has his nature. I may make an emotional display, but the way his emotion is manifest is by 25, 30 years of trucking in the trenches to keep the place going. So, it's like,
One of the problems that were brought up is.
that has to be
One-
accepted. That why is the man doing it? And I just don't buy that it's because of distinction or a position or for vindication. I just don't. You can't run on that as long as we haven't seen that in our society. People who run on those motives burn out.
What we have seen though is that even after being a devotee for 25 years, people maintain certain
Tendencies, all right.
material.
And that's what I'm trying to point out tomorrow.
And those the tendency is, the biggest problem that I'm having here is just, and you said this yourself,
Yeah.
the orientation towards the institution rather than the individual. I'm not perceiving the same.
He says he
degree of
knows that and he compensates for it. He's got
Not only
people in the school.
compensates for it, but I think that those are the kind of things that the devotee realizes that,
Here's the
that's the kind of thing that the devotee realizes that, he made a mistake. And actually, in terms of individual and personal dealings, it seems that, with maturity, that it's happening.
But it's not something that should be compensated for. What we're talking about actually is criminal behavior versus mistakes.
Right.
One thing is entirely different. I don't think you've ever recognized the difference. I don't think you've
Between
ever
what?
criminal behavior
Yeah.
and party to criminal behavior and legitimate mistakes that are unfortunate.
Yeah.
And that is
Make your case, because whether a criminal,
Yeah.
When the sexual abuse, criminal, scars the kids for life, he kicked into gear. So I don't
He
quite,
what?
Responded.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I know firsthand because I was there,
Yeah.
and I talked with your Budger about it.
Yeah.
For possibly as much as 2, 3, 4 days
Yeah.
about Anantarupa,
Yeah.
and he had some solid evidence that he felt was solid evidence, which I don't remember. He went to you about it. Now you know Veer Budran that he was possibly considered to be one of the most astute for
Yeah.
at that.
So
up to
I would
the
really like to
Gurukul
have
history.
Veerabhadra here. I'd like to have a statement from Veerabhadra.
At this point, all you have to go on is,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you
it's-
recognize me as somebody that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
And what I do remember is that, and he had a very good active relationship with you.
Yeah.
However, it was one of the only times that you implied that you would actually physically hit him for even bringing it up. And he was furious. That was the beginning, that was the
I
turning
have
point.
after Veerabhadra left the school, I have letters and letters and letters and letters from him about, how wonderful the school
No, I'm
was,
talking
how he liked the
specifically,
school,
I'm
how he
talking
liked.
specifically about Anantarupa and the sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And that's what was going on.
I guess these things are coming up. I have absolutely no recall from them,
But what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
Anantarupa wasn't dealt with until years later.
That's exactly my point, and I've been trying to raise it for
Yeah.
a long time now, is that Vajri's going from the premise that as soon as you found out about Anantarupa, you blew the whistle, the school closed.
Yeah.
No. I've been told by so many people who've been personally molested by Anantarupa that it was brought to your attention long before anything happened. And you, in fear of whatever the concerns were at the time of not
I would
losing
like to show
everything.
you the letters that I wrote and
Well, let's give an example that nobody can deny, and that's Raghunath. Now, and it was a very good question that, you know, he said, do you remember people being beat black and blue?
Yeah.
You do.
It's like, I remember like something like these boys, like what Bahu Lashva said, you know, that it was going great and everything was okay, and then, you know, occasionally he would like explode or something.
So how often is occasional? Once every 6 months?
I just remember a few times or something.
4 times?
I
8
can't
times?
say.
I mean, that really is the crux of the issue. I mean, in other words, how many screaming, you know, how many signs do you have to get before you recognize, no, this guy is actually a monster? I know firsthand that he broke Sridham's teeth and he broke Anga's teeth, and I know that there was a third boy that also had his teeth chipped by him.
Yeah.
I know firsthand also, because I was sitting there in the Japa class, that, you know, Sridham was falling asleep. He walks outside, and, you know, Raghunath sends him outside, actually carries him out, and about 8 minutes later, we hear this, 3 minutes later, we hear this thud, the whole room shakes. He comes back in at the end of Japa period, and his fists are bleeding.
Not the roots.
Raghunath. And he goes, yeah, I went to punch him, but he ducked. And he told, this I saw firsthand, and he told this to you and Ragadev. And the response was, all 3 of you chuckled about it. So here we have 3 kids that had their teeth broken. We have Sridham in this firsthand. My firsthand experience of Raghunath beating me so severely that he refused to let me out of the room for 2 weeks. That's how severe the beating was. He used his, you know, karates, his kicks. I was black and blue. 3 weeks later, I went and showed Sachimata. You came in about the 4th day, you and Naragadev, and what you guys proceeded to do is go and actually start making jokes about it. Oh, you look at this one over here, Maharaj. You know, he must have done the karate thing there. And you guys joked about it for 3 to 5, maybe even 8 minutes. And he said, yeah, well, we're going to have to talk about him. So first of all, there's those, how many signs do you need? And secondly, how...
We can talk sometime, you'll be around?
Yeah, I'm gonna be around.
Okay.
We'll be jamming around. Yeah, how long are you gonna be here for?
Yeah, because I'd like to also hear personally from the people that were here, too, you know, just like a final kind of
I have 3 things, but
comment,
those were the first 2.
perception. I mean, honestly, not, you know,
Right.
I would really like to.
What's our, I'm here, I can stay forever, I'm just.
Yeah,
just
I'd
don't
like
wanna
to say that,
torture Maharaj.
yeah, I think there was some weaknesses too, maybe.
But
I
do
mean,
you...
I would say like this too, is I think it was like, you know, sometimes you get lost and enmity develops, you know, like I say with you, you know, you drove people crazy and, you know,
Well,
it was wrong and that, you know, I'm sorry about it.
Fair enough
apologize.
with me,
And
and-
that, like,
but-
that.
But what I'm talking about is the
Yeah.
greater picture.
I don't have
you
the
were-
same, but I don't have the same perception as
We're
you
not
as a
talking about
student,
perception.
managing.
We're not talking-
Here's what
Yeah.
he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
He's saying that you were getting messages, taking it at the most innocent level.
yeah,
You were getting messages that this
Yeah.
man is a monster. And it took a long, long time before you realized it.
yeah,
To the point that an incredible amount of damage was done.
okay,
How, and he's wondering, correct me if I'm
yeah.
wrong, how is that changed? Because that's temperament or nature, or, you know, what's the,
Yeah.
am I right? Is that
No,
you're
what I'm
All
saying
right.
is that it's a you're right on the part that it's a demonstration. You can see obviously that it's there. What I'm saying is that the tendency of not recognizing the gravity of that.
Yeah, I think
They're-
the thing that's hurting this is this gory incident. You know? That's the thing that here, that I think the report said that over a period of 5 years, you know, I think like 4 times the stick was used, a period of 5 years. But I think that if people actually, you know, barring this particular incident, I think if people looked at the school now, you know, I think they would really see that there was actually like a real vigilance, that it's not the same mood, you know, people learn from their mistakes.
There's the argument that there's favoritism.
What?
Some people they're happy with, some people they're not happy with. Some people, you know, get
Definitely.
nailed, some people don't get nailed.
So how are we gonna resolve what's actually there? Because in my personal perception, maybe I'm completely blind, my personal perception is you have a school that has kept the children's training at a very high standard, and it's kept them in an affectionate, loving mood with the teachers. There has been some problem with boys who get to teenage years who can't be engaged anymore, you know, who we don't really have the facility to train, and some tension has gone there. I think if you actually, you know, analyze the school, I'd like, Manu, that you actually come, you know, and, you know, to see the school. I personally think it's very impressive now. And I don't think it's just like a blindfold or something like that. I think, you know, it's something you can see how children are trained, you know.
You brought
very-
that up earlier, you're saying how nice it was, and my response to
Is,
that
is,
is, how
yes.
nice it is.
Yeah.
And my response to that is, how much does that have to do solely with, let's say yourself and the teachers are there, as it does with the fact that there's now such a,
Pressure.
outside pressure,
No, because
that they won't allow those things to happen?
No, because then let's see in other schools that kids
I
are
think
being trained.
that you have,
I think
you
that,
have more qualified people, you have, you know,
It's
don't know-
not
I only
easy
know
to
them by
do.
reputation,
it's
but.
not just people gonna put pressure on you and that all of a sudden you're
No,
gonna
you
be
have,
a
you
good
have
school.
people that you have parents who are much, or don't just hand their kids in and shut off the signs and just, you know, depend on Christian. You have parents that are actually deeply concerned. You have teachers that are deeply concerned, and you have Maraj who's been badly burned in the past and is more attentive. I mean, those are, we're not gonna argue those points. I mean, it's, you've got a different situation.
Okay, well.
I don't think they're all, I don't think that if you just remove the social like, what is it, Lord of the Flies, you know? If you just remove the societal pressure, it would all go back to beating and sexual abuse.
And I think the main
I
pressure is
don't
from
think
the
so.
teachers. I don't think it's just the outside.
No, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, the quality of
Pressure
the
is the
people.
teachers. They're demanding that the, you know, the children are taken care of. They're demanding that there's the proper prashadam. They're demanding. that
If,
there's the proper
if it's a
standard.
fact that there's a tendency here to, and the tendency, I feel, a symptom of it is not recognizing. Do you recognize that what happened in Vrindavan Gurukulis, and I'll just go on as a side note,
Yeah.
that you say, you know, we didn't have a lot of manpower, we didn't have a lot of teachers, we had too many students.
Oh, you
However,
wanna
let me
say-
just say,
okay.
here's the
Yeah.
punchline on that one,
Yeah.
and that no other Gurukul, or if actually, in fact, if I feel, and if I'm wrong, correct me,
Yeah.
but if I understand correctly, if you combine the abuses of all other Gurukuls
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
they would not equal the severity.
I'm
of
not gonna
the
say
closure.
percentage, but I'm gonna say that it was rampant, it was
I don't think-
unacceptable, it was horrible, and I was in charge, and,
Okay, and that's hold on.
what?
I just want to butt in here because it's not just that you were in charge, you also partook in it. And to the degree that you partook in it and knew that things were going on, that's what we're talking about. Just simple mistakes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 times, or actual, you know, criminal behavior that went on over a course of 10 years.
Let me, actually, that's a good point. Let me ask you, do you recognize any of the things, for example, Raghunath speeding, do you consider that criminal?
Consider it criminal.
In other words, beating a child to the point where he's bruised for
Yeah.
3 weeks, you
Right.
would.
Yeah.
Now, if you saw that, no matter, in that particular case, teachers didn't like me, and that specific reason was that I had comic books which were banned. Because I'm our Chitrika with the Mahabharata stories and
Okay.
the comic with them. Now, whatever the reason was, shouldn't
That
that,
door open?
There's somebody standing on the other side. If I shut the door in her face, it's rude and impolite. Do you mind if you shut this door? If you go rude and polite, you're used to it.
What was that?
Some girl was ticked off now because we shut the door in her face. Another example of this company COVID insensitive.
so
You can't
you
win.
recognize that as a criminal activity?
Yeah.
Why did you not take any legal measure or any kind of severe response at that time? Just in my case alone, what to speak of the others?
Well, I didn't realize what had happened.
You came in inside. You came in. Do you question that I would be exaggerating or lying?
No.
Okay. So you actually came in and you and Raghunath were laughing about it. The problem that the only problem that I'm having, and this is
Okay.
another area that I'd like to get into with you if you have the time, not now, Badrinath, but at another time, and that is Dhanurdhara's qualifications, and I would actually be very
I
happy
think
to
there's
share
only
with
so
you.
much you can digest at a time.
Yeah, not now, but at some point. But right now, what we're supposed to
Yeah,
be
he wants
focusing
me to, you know, open a political party with him in Hawaii.
Oh, no.
We will.
Are you serious or what?
He's serious.
We'll
He's very
get
serious.
into, the
He has
first thing
other
I'd like
plans
to do
to
is do a hand,
That's fun.
Yeah. He knows that I'm
gonna
not
run for
so.
something?
He knows that I'm not so simple as people think.
Budgery,
No,
I don't
nobody
think you're
else.
simple.
He knows the whole
Budgery.
scoop.
Nobody would have been able to run that Gurukul with the limited, with, it's not limited, it was just, it was not possible.
Prabhu, to maintain your life here, what you speak of move forward in India, it requires a mind of Byzantine depth.
But then he
complexity.
also, on top of that, he actually kept the entire GBC body at bay from getting, from coming into that Gurukul. And he kept the entire student body, through one measure or another, subdued enough where they didn't get enough momentum to get the parents to go in and do something. And I feel,
He'd be an ideal president.
well, the thing is that if this is the way I see Dhanurdhara, if he expanded the
And
scope of
that's-
his
that's-
resources,
I'm
this
just
is,
trying to think of the time factor.
okay.
Yeah.
So to me, do you recognize how criminal this thing is?
Now I do.
Okay, to me, if you did, it would translate into the point where you wouldn't be as lighthearted, for example, with this latest
I really,
issue.
this particular thing, I don't really want to discuss it now. I feel it's a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
And,
Now, at what point does so much accumulation of criminal activity discount somebody from being allowed to work in that function?
I can fast forward this. It was all kinds of criminal activity and he, in disgrace and embarrassment and frustration, and he walked away from it. We already established that. The only question is now, is the pattern going to repeat itself, and what kind of message is it sending to society? That's our question.
And
Where are we going
The
here?
question is urgent because the Gurukul needs him, and he's one of the only people dedicated to doing it. Now, I
Yeah.
feel that part of the reason why Vrindavan is left in the isolation that it has been is because you've managed to actually keep the movement out.
And you can
Now,
also
when-
throw in Prabhupada's argument. See, this is another one. And you've got the example of Karunda, you've got the example of Bali Mardana. I don't mean in any way to put them in these
Okay.
categories. But you had my experience is that generally speaking, if someone, Prabhupada would pick people up and re-engage them. He didn't, now whether it's somewhere else, now that's another issue, but I'm just saying there was the tendency of
I
Prabhupada
want
to
to
try
say,
to.
in terms of the school, the things that I'm the one who's now trying to bring everybody in more than the others.
Well, the original situation of not having enough manpower and resources, I
Yeah.
think was artificially controlled. Because if I remember correctly, I went to France 2 years later, or a year later, and Bhagavan had one teacher for every 2 students. And
He had
something,
disciples. He had disciples.
which means what?
It means your disciples do what you tell them to do. If he'd
Right.
been in charge of the Gurukula in Vrindavan, he would have had it too.
Right, exactly.
So-
And Rameshwar did the same
So
thing.
what we're
Rameshwar
saying-
threw money and threw manpower and threw resources into these
Where are
Gurukul
we going?
projects.
Where are we going here?
What we're going in is that
Because I
the only
gotta go.
reason why it didn't translate into Vrindavan was because Dhanurdhara was there keeping them at bay.
So what? Where are we going? I don't understand.
If they were allowed to come in, the history of Gurukul would have been entirely different. Vrindavan would have had more than enough qualified
And
manpower.
this is the point that I disagree with him. If they were allowed to come in, you wouldn't have a Gurukul right now.
Why?
Because they had the wrong concept of what Gurukul was. And therefore, if you don't know what to do, no matter how much resources you have,
But
it's
you
not
know,
gonna
they
be
had, like for
successful.
example, when Bhagavan took over
Manu,
Vrindavan.
if you don't mind, I think at this point, it's Manu, it's you, who has you have a very creative mind, a lot of ideas,
Yeah.
I don't know if I need to be here anymore.
Well, to me, it's about a culture, and I'm concerned that Dhanurdhara still has the same culture, in which case Vrindavan is still not going to be able to get in the same manpower and resources. Not having Dhanurdhara there, the Gurukul, quote unquote, going under will simply leave a vacuum for other people to come in that will actually bring the resources. and
Here's
experience.
for what it's worth, here's the
First of all,
plan.
it's not even under me right now. That's one thing. I mean, one thing I did too is I put the Gurukul under the board of the temple. That's one thing I did to get rid of that mentality when I came back. The Gurukula was under a board of the temple.
Although the first report from the child abuse
Yeah.
is that because maybe they just dodged the issue, but when the report of the beating
That
There was the whole thing, the school was told, it was, the temp was told it's none of your business, and it went back to the school.
Because that was.
Because nobody was there, there was a vacuum,
No,
in the
that was a
summertime.
different, that was a different board. The board was, it
So
was.
now the new board,
It's not,
school's under
that's like the temple management council, it's different than the project board. I put the Gurukul under the project, the temple put themselves under the project, and,
but it,
Let me just ask
So
you,
it-
here's the punchline,
yes.
if this whole thing goes under, what will happen? What I see happening is
But
that
I-
other people
I can-
outside
I
this
can
town will
stop it.
actually come in and start coming in with resources, and the fact that Dhanurdhara was there is that relationship with the rest of the movement has been, I
that's a
felt,
great risk. That's a
No,
great
no,
risk,
no, that
because-
doesn't- my
because you
experience,
have a school.
the idea that if you create a vacuum in ISKCON,
Yeah.
and because it's a good idea and a valuable
No.
project.
It's
that-
different,
that
Vrindavan is
people-
critical to education, and I really
No,
think
but,
that
I'm just telling you, that,
Vrindavan
that's-
has attracted a lot of good men that have been turned away.
here's the thing, what we're thinking to do, the schools, the policy, the goals, what is a successful student, you know, what product are we trying to turn out from the school? Is it just for Brahmins? Do we need another division that takes care of people who are more, you know, the other Varna? I mean, where is that school going? Once we get everybody with a like vision okay, we agree, this is the concept, this is how it runs. Then Murli and I and Kavi Chandra Maharaj are going to be relentless. And just like every GBC man had to come up with one person a year for India, maybe we have to come up with, everybody's got to come once a year, they got to donate a teacher. You know, we got to figure out some system to get qualified people in there and start helping with money. That's the idea with that one. So in other words, it's not that, you know, it's not that if Maharaj were out of the picture, then all these resources would flow in. Why don't we, if there's a way that we can all work together, that's the best way to do it.
I would,
But I mean, if
As
we're,
a
if we're gonna
consultant to
argue,
that board.
if we're gonna talk, I'm sorry. If we're gonna talk about where the school's going and the goals and the dream, you know, that's a whole other topic, and I just, that's not, we were here to, he hear from them, they hear from him about what happened in the school, and the real thing is that, you know, how we, if Maharaj continues being in charge of the school, how is it gonna affect their vision of ISKCON, how, you know, what's gonna happen? So that we've discussed, and at this point I'm gonna step out if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm surrendered, you know, whatever happens, I can't push anymore, you know. I'm not really pushing myself particularly aggressively to take that service in one sense, but I think other people would.
Oh, definitely.
And I think from my particular perception of what happened, which is the only thing I can express, is that you have a very good school there, you know, and I mean, I think you have a really good school there. I think the students are being trained very nicely, and I think it's a great, society has to make sure not to risk it, that's all. And up until now, I have a part to play in that, and you know, it's just, I just see in our society, it's just not people to go around, you know?
No,
And that's all I see, it's like.
my only point is that they're not at cross purposes, what you're saying and what I'm saying
Yeah.
are not at cross purposes.
Yeah, I don't
My
really-
concern is that given all of that, if,
Right.
you know, whatever, I said it so many times, it's gonna because of the flaw in the system, it's gonna, the same thing's gonna happen again and we're all
Well,
gonna.
that-
That's my anxiety.
That point, I think you should push and get that thing, yeah, I mean, we should all get that worked out, that,
I don't know, Badri, if him resigning is actually
It's not my decision.
but the fact that he resigned, I don't know if that means, you know, in other words, somebody in drunk driving runs somebody over, then they go to jail for 6 months, and then, you know, that's the designated
Yeah.
retribution for the crime. I don't know if the resignation actually,
right now, I'm not quite sure what my position is. All I know is I'm not there right now, and for other reasons, it has nothing to do with Gurukul.
let me ask you, Badri, if you were to come in with this manpower and resources, you don't
Well, I'm
think
gonna make a pitch, let me tell you, let's see what happens.
It's, you know, it's.
Talk's cheap.
It's not
Go
only
ahead.
that, it's,
Would
I think we
you
should
think
have
the
one
Vrindavan
Gurukul.
Gurukul would,
You gotta have quality. We've had this conversation.
It's
I
not-
sent
no,
the
no.
best man. We sent you Dharma Setu, and he ran into a stone wall of cliffism and was bounced out of that place. He got the heaviest vibe, and you know.
it's the
Is that what you
culture?
said? I put words in your mouth.
What? Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say about sending people. They gotta be qualified people.
No.
See, I just
I
think that
agree.
there's, I
Not
just think that there's
disqualified, I mean, you have to make sure that I think a project is successful when the know-how
But
is
see,
there.
it's like
I
it's
disagree
like-
with
it's
you.
like it's like we need help. We're overtaxed.
you-
we don't have what we
no,
need.
no, no,
we
but
want to
you-
grow,
you know-
and then we say, okay,
No,
we want to send
you-
you men and money. Well, you
No,
know,
No, no, no,
it's
I mean, you
it's
misunderstood,
like, hey,
you misunderstood what I said.
Okay.
You misunderstood what I said. I'm saying, right now, I think what you got there is, and I think any successful project is, you really have to know what to do,
novel concept.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, it's not that, if that goes, you can throw in so many
No, no, but,
resources.
so my point is,
That's
that-
what I'm
that-
saying.
that's why the first step
That's
is
what I'm saying.
to have a shared vision and a clear understanding.
Right, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, I'm with you.
Resources will come.
That's
I
why.
think
but
right
it's up to
now,
you,
after so
Maharaj,
many years-
they've got it.
It's not just me,
As
it's a
soon as
team.
it gets on, the Board of Education is there on comm.
Yeah.
We've told everybody.
Yeah.
They've got to put it on comm.
Yeah.
What are their policies? What is their vision? What is
Yeah.
their goal?
Right,
Right. We're ready.
And I have,
I gotta
I
go.
recognize my problem is I think that philosophically and culturally, I don't agree with the premises that he's working from, and he is the problem, that philosophy and that culture that he's created. I don't
And-
agree with your
and then
assumptions
what
on
I think
education,
is-
and your history shows that.
Yeah.
And bringing him back in there
You don't
is
know exactly what
reaffirming.
his assumptions are till you see it. And the thing is, that let me ask you this: even if I were to accept that premise,
Okay.
that, and I don't mean this because I'm not saying this is true,
Yeah.
but just for the sake of
Yeah.
argument, that Maharaj is the problem. If you have clear policies, clear vision that's been run by the entire board, which Board of Education
Okay.
really valuable, it goes through the whole GVC. Many parents are involved. We get, this is what we want our school to be. This is how we want it run. This is how we want the students treated. This is how we want it to work. We get all that worked out.
Okay.
And we have a monitoring system so that it's actually followed. Then it doesn't, then Maharaj plays his particular role where he fits in.
Which is,
I'm not an advocate that that's what should happen. I'm just saying this is a model that would work.
you're trying
so-
to present yourself as a manager, and that's,
No,
as a
I'm
man.
not, at all. And not only that, right now, my role in the school is not, it's a part. Even now, it's a part, and it's not like it's
There's-
actually a team of people that set the policies, and the vision comes from a team of people.
If you
not
goof up
me.
on a job so many times they fire you, if you goof up so many times in an industry, you can never get work in that industry again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at there's so many points, doesn't matter how experienced you've gotten
Yeah.
from it, at some point you should say this person is just bad history.
But I would say right now, if you look at the school now,
It doesn't
and
have
if you look at the school now and you're gonna give me blame when it goes bad, then I think if you look at the school now and see how the school's developing, then I think in the same sense you have to give the person credit. And,
Yeah, but
and also, you know, it's very risky because we also have to see, I mean, some people have ideas about education. It's risky, let's see some schools getting developed in ISKCON. And that will really, you know, with people's vision and ideas of what they are, you know, that'll really say something. That will say something about what
no
you're
other
doing
Gurukul can
too.
duplicate the cultural and philosophical and religious trappings of Vrindavan Gurukul, therefore no other Gurukul can begin to compete
But
with
it's not
it.
just that. It's not just that, because with all those religious, philosophical things, we have the worst school in the world. It's not just that. It's the same thing. It's not just that.
It's like the old build the field and they will come.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you have a good school, and a certain type of school attracts certain type of people. I mean, there is no doubt there's a head start because it's Vrindavan.
Florida.
Yeah, I'm not
Florida's
saying-
doing very well, or it did very well for a while, and then the students have heard that.
Manu? You gonna say something?
Okay. I did a series of interviews on the phone that I haven't been able to play today, and I promised all the people that they would get their voice heard.
Yeah.
So you're saying I shouldn't go because you've got
I'm not
more.
gonna play them now. I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow in a separate meeting with us and Maharaj and maybe you, and then get his response to it. But the whole time we've been pointing along the same line, and that is, mess up or criminal. Mess up a criminal. Now, how many years does it take somebody to beat on children, to witness beating on children, to let sexual abuse go on? And I mean, Nuragadev was not, he was homosexual, and people knew about it way before anything was ever done. Way before Anantarupa ever showed up with a Gurukul.
I guess we should start again in the morning if we want to go into, I thought that we kind of finished this side.
Well, no,
Well, what they're
because
saying is that he resigned, and therefore that sort of,
Just before
No,
we go into
but-
that, before we launch
Yeah.
into
what
all
is
the-
what is
he's
the,
throwing in a procedural thing. He's just
Yeah.
which I fully respect. He's saying that there's a whole new series of people that he recorded. He promised that we would hear it.
Yeah,
So it seems, if Marge has time,
well,
that we are obliged. I don't mean that
Okay.
begrudgingly. I mean it's our duty that
Okay.
that we should hear them. So when do you want to do that?
tomorrow?
What time is convenient for you, Marge?
I really think it should be done in the morning, these evening things that,
Yeah.
wearing,
Yeah.
I mean, if we can do it in the morning.
well, the thing is everyone will start assembling here for the temple program at around 4. You wanna-
No. We have to we'll get all the same people in the same.
If they're
What do you think, well, Mano? What do you think?
Just-
No, wait.
I mean-
You got us that weird mix this morning that I had to fry this afternoon. Fry those two people.
I would
So
like if everybody was here.
everybody means
So
the
they
people that
could
were already.
respond to it, but I don't think we'll get everybody. Maybe some people.
So
will.
what do you want to do, Mano?
Right now, I want to finish my point.
No, but let's figure out where we're going to first. Tomorrow, what do you want to? You just tell me. What do you want to do?
Well, we'll get together here again at about 9 or 10 in the morning.
It's gonna be very.
I can't
Sunday.
be free till 11. I tell you that right now.
11?
I'm not even able to give class tomorrow.
The kids will come at 4.
4 o'clock,
But they'll
if
be
you want
hanging
them
out.
here, they can make it at 4.
You mean for the Sunday Feast program?
The Sunday feast.
I'm sure they're
is at 5.
expecting one of us to give the lecture, and we should do that. I mean, one.
I don't know if I'll be in a condition, that's right now.
You're gonna be here tomorrow, right?
Well, I'm here for this purpose, I'm here till Tuesday morning, so
Seems like Marsh should give the lecture tomorrow.
I'm not
You
gonna.
don't want.
do it
He's not
tomorrow
gonna.
morning.
You don't want to haul him out of here at 5:30 and put him on the Vyasa. It's like now speak the words of
Right now,
Srila
I don't
Vyasa.
think I can speak at all.
Is there any time we can do it after? Is it from 11? They won't be here till 4. I don't know.
Well, why is it necessary that all the kids are here to hear the
It's just that that's where they're going to respond.
Well, why don't we? Could we try playing it at 11 and just see how far? How long are the tapes?
Not that long. We've got about 2 hours worth.
So we're gonna listen to 2 hours worth of tapes?
Different people bringing up.
I don't
different
mind, but I'm
things.
just Okay. What do you act? Just tell me what you're thinking. We listen to 2 hours worth of tape, or you have selections of it, or what do you think?
Well, just the main complaints that the people have. And, ask Maharaj if he remembers it or if he doesn't remember it. And because my main point is that these activities are not just brushed under the table and said that 10 years have passed since that time, and whatever I was doing from 1976 till 86, well, now I've changed because now I'm the one that's pushing the school forward. Well, that's all well and fine, but something's wrong. And that is that, now you have a child abuse protection team. You screen your teachers. Your teachers can't be teachers if they have a certain criminal record.
Okay.
And you've got a principal who, for 10 years, so many disgusting things were going on.
So
He was involved,
your argument
personally.
is that, speaking in my lawyer training,
Well, what
Wait,
example, what moral example are you
wait.
setting?
But you can put him on the scene. You can say that he knew, these people are going to tell us that he, just like I wrote down the names, there's 3 kids here who say they told Maharaj that there was sexual abuse and he didn't do anything about it. So are you going to paint a picture, because if it was going on and he was sailing it above it, oblivious to without being told, that's one thing. If there's people that actually, repeatedly he was hearing about violent beatings, and repeatedly he was hearing about sexual activity, abuse, and didn't act, then your argument that here is someone who is just, damaged goods for life. I mean, is that what we're...
That's the policy of that educational board, or whatever that board is.
I don't know if that's our policy.
Well,
We've never dealt with something like
The
that.
thing
Is that what you're saying, Manu? I mean, I'm not... Is that what
you're going to be screening teachers, who may have great qualifications, but because they messed up somewhere along the line, they're not going to be teachers. As any good school would do. And meanwhile, you have a principal who nobody really knows the history. Nobody knows what happened in the years 76 till 86 except for the students. And we haven't told very many people because it totally discourages anybody from putting their child in Gurukul. In fact, what I've found is that most people are really apprehensive now to put their child in Gurukul. It's destroyed ashrams. Nobody wants an ashram because they say, look what happened in Vrindavan.
Vrindavan school did destroy ashrams. Well, I think that the pattern repeated itself, not to be completely, but that Mayapur blew up, that one blew up, the Denver school blew up, and I was never going to put my kids. I put my kids up in BV because I personally knew the teacher, and I drove up there every 3 weeks and told them, I'll break every bone in your body if anything ever happens to my children. So where are we?
We're at a point where still, if it were known what happened between 1976 and 86, whether Maharaj remembers it or not, if it were known to Tamal Krishna and Burijan at the time when they asked him to come back into school, would they have done it?
Wasn't Tamal Krishna.
You want an honest answer? My personal opinion is, I don't know anything. I don't, that the GBC body, I have a lot of respect for, and they do, they think about things. My personal feeling is that there's a really strong chance that if this came up to a vote, whatever had happened 10 years ago, they would look at the school now. I tend to think they would tell him, go ahead. If they saw certain safety things were in place, I think they would tell him, I think they would be grateful that he was willing to do it. And they would tell him to go ahead and do it. I genuinely, now whether that's right or wrong or how you feel about that, I'm just giving you, like a play-by-play.
Right.
That's my
that's
prognosis.
natural for somebody who didn't experience being in Gurukul.
I'm just telling you, but that's what he asked. That's what I think would happen. Okay, go ahead.
I gotta sign out for the day. I have a few messages for you, but I just...
You just write them down? Is it complicated? I mean, it's not...
I'll just tell you later.
No one's dying, it's not worth millions of money? No. No worries. Probably happy if I don't know it.
Okay.
Hi, Robert. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Put betting in there.
I appreciate it. You're very kind.
Okay.
I will.
You will.
But you're understood for the record that it's not enough per se that he shouldn't be principal. I'm saying that one of those safeguards should be the philosophy and the culture that's been part of the makeup of his administration.
That'd have to be defined what it is, and it'd have to be defined that that's actually mine.
And I would be happy.
But see, then you circumvent that whole thing. You
Right,
circumvent it.
wait,
You circumvent it by if you have a shared if you sit down in Mayapur, discuss before Mayapur with the Board of Education, we hammer out a policy and guidelines and vision for the school that the Board of Education agrees with, and obviously, like I'm trying to get Murli Vadika to come there, and we've almost worked it out that he can also be there in Mayapur. I talked to Braj Bihari, we want to get as many of the teachers to come. So everybody is part of the thing, instead of being, competitive and, and against, an alien or whatever.
Any students?
That's another issue, we can think about that, but, let's not, these are all things, this is all answer, we don't have to deal with that at this time of the day.
Well, that's part of.
So you don't need to go into, what is his vision, and is it good or is it bad? It's like a moot point. We're going to come out of something in Mayapur that everybody's with. My question is, what do we do tomorrow? That's, we should just plan what's happening. So, let's start with the best possible words according to you. Picture us sitting for 2 hours listening to the tapes, or you picture paring it down, or just tell me what are you actually thinking?
Well, just listening to the tape, addressing it point by point, and getting Maharaj's reaction to whatever's being said. whether it's true, whether he remembers it.
Because
or-
not a lot
Just-
of kids spoke here.
But he,
Not a lot of kids spoke, but most people were commenting on other people's points.
right,
So now if you have 2 hours of tape,
yeah,
if people-
every 5-10 minutes, people are gonna comment for like
right,
half
right,
an
right,
hour.
you're
or
talking about
something.
an
You're gonna go
8-hour
for it,
thing,
you know?
yeah, so wait, we're just talking about logistics.
That's what I'm talking about.
Um,
I think there's gonna be a maturing of the ideas that were talked about today that could possibly come forward tomorrow.
Or you could have them listen through the whole thing without saying anything and jot down your notes and take them at the end.
Have me listen to it.
No, everyone listens to it and they can all jot down their
I
individual
just
notes.
can't, I just can't believe, I don't,
It'd be hard for me
I
to
don't,
listen to a whole thing and then not comment
I don't,
because it's.
how, okay, I'm trying to, push my thing on this. What do you think we should do, Mark?
Well, I don't think it's fair because it's so difficult for me. I'm liable to, not want to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's already tough enough for me, to hear the whole things and go through it. I mean, I realize that I should, as part of, I deserve it. So it's really not in my hands.
I'm just thinking.
I'm actually, there's nothing I can do.
Let's think of a couple of ways. My concern is, you got 2 hours worth of tape, that's like a suture. People are gonna make comments, gonna add on to it, that's gonna fluff out to 8 hours worth of stuff, if you actually want to be serious about it.
More.
So, or whatever. So, one question is a lot of it repetitive? Not to be, disrespectful to their voices and their concerns, is it repetitive, then, maybe, or do we give Maharaj, can you make a copy, and sometime during the day, early in the morning or whatever, he listens to the 2-hour tape, and he makes notes, and then they assemble here, and they play the tape, and they make notes, and then once, rather than everyone sitting for 2 hours, and then, I don't know, how else you do it? Anybody got a suggestion? I mean, do we
It's
go
hard
for an
me to
8-hour
do, too, as
marathon?
I feel too, if people hear the tapes, things may be said that are not correct, or people's perceptions, without me here, it just,
Why don't we give like a minimal amount of time at least, something, so his, that sense of obligation on that is met.
Is there any way you could play through it and pick out? I mean, what do you think? I don't want to. We go away and the word goes out. Well, they just did a superficial thing and they didn't even listen to everybody. And it was a slam dunk. And what's the use of these people? I don't want to create that image. But I just don't want to beat the thing to death.
Well, certainly, I mean, you've got testimony from kids who personally had experiences with Dhanurdhara Maharaj. But if Dhanurdhara Maharaj is just going to sit through it and say, I don't remember, which, maybe...
what kind of experiences?
Where you personally,
Hit a kid, or like that, physically hit a kid, or lost my temper, or they told me about something that happened in the school, things like that?
Yeah. So,
Anything more than that?
That's a lot.
well, parents...
Is this a fact-finding mission?
Wait, no. It's just, what?
I want to know, is there anything more than that? It's just,
I mean, it won't get more than that because,
That's the heart of it.
what?
That's the heart of it.
it's like...
That's
The heart of it is what? That sometimes I hit kids?
No, the heart of the issue right now at hand,
Yeah.
getting to his lawyer side, the next step is to hear the tape. They want to be heard, and if you don't give them the chance to be heard, they're going to feel put out. Obviously, you should listen to the tape. Whether you comment every single time during the tape, I don't think is necessary. Listening to everybody, what they've been saying. A lot of what's said today is comment after comment after
Can I ask you
comment.
something, Manu? Would it be any different than what happened today?
What happened today
No.
is probably
Wait,
not the best thing to
not
do.
from
We
com-
kind of came
What?
at the end of the thing.
Would
Not
it be any different than what happened today?
No, just different people remembering more incidents, that's all.
Similar types.
Well, that...
Well, let me ask you
Let
this.
me, I just, please.
Would it be enough if he
Rob,
read the tapes, or
just
does
one second.
everyone have to be here?
Can I say it, similar types of incidences? Something more than what was said today? Or the same thing?
Would it draw him closer into? Would we see after these interviews a pattern of him personally beating kids, or a pattern of him being aware of violent abuse, or a pattern of being aware of sexual abuse and not doing anything? maybe that's too hard for you to judge, but is that the pattern you think
Maybe
these
you
schools
should-
paint?
Well, if you only hear it from 3 people, then, you know, those 3 instances, you know, that's all. But if you hear it from all the people that I got, then it becomes a much larger volume, what to speak of all the kids who I couldn't reach, who didn't tell their story.
But I'm willing to,
Face people.
not face people,
Person.
but, my thing, I don't think it's gonna be any different than what happened today. I mean, like,
No, except that, you know, today it was kind of, right now as things stand, it's concluded that, you know, okay, we messed up, you know, for such amount of time, and such horrible activities were going on, but actually it was just once every so often, and, you know, it wasn't that many.
Like the kids here who said, you know, Maharaj has a memory, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I thought you said, that, you know, he, as far as, what's it, Raghunath going off and just completely obliterating some child, that it happened, you know, maybe 4 or 5 times, you know, not, you know, over the span of his time, or, you know, once every few
obviously,
months.
things
But
were
they're
happening.
saying, but they're saying,
Yeah.
somebody said, you know, once a month, and somebody said once a week, and then somebody said, well, maybe once every 2 weeks. I mean, it was a pretty regular thing. That's the, you know.
obviously, a lot more happened than I was aware of.